Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the really influential world of Édouard Manet, specifically how he represents space in his paintings.
And we're focusing on one particular work, right? An early one.
Exactly. Music in the Tuileries Gardens from around, what, 1861, 1862?
That's the one. And it's interesting because, at first glance, it looks pretty conventional for the time.
Yeah, and that's such an important point to start with, Manet's background.
Right.
Because he wasn't like some outsider artist initially. He had a completely formal, traditional art
Oh,
education.
totally. Studied in places like Couture's studio.
Yeah.
Really knew the academic traditions, the classical techniques.
View them inside out, and you can see that knowledge in this painting, definitely. But you also start seeing little hints of something else, his own approach, maybe.
Precisely. And that's our mission for this deep dive, really. To look closely at the specific ways Manet is organizing the space here, how he guides your eye. Because the choices he makes, even if they seem subtle, they're actually really significant, especially for what comes later.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Music in the Tuileries Gardens. You said it looks conventional, and it is drawing on those traditions he learned. It's a classical oil painting in many ways.
It is. You can see the grounding in tradition. But like you said, he's already making some deliberate choices about the composition, about space.
Choices that maybe start to push against that tradition a little, even subtly.
Exactly. He's playing with the rules, even while following them, you could say.
Okay, let's unpack this then. How does he structure the painting? What are the main sort of anchors he's using?
Well, there are really two main axes organizing things. First, there's a very clear horizontal line.
Horizontal. Where?
Look at the heads of the people in the back row. See how they form a pretty distinct line across the canvas?
Ah, yeah. Okay, I see that. Like a barrier, almost.
Kind of. And then, countering that, he puts a really strong emphasis on vertical lines.
Vertical lines.
Yeah, these are very pronounced throughout the whole scene.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. That verticality, I mean, you can't miss those thick lines made by the trees, right?
Certainly not. They're very prominent.
Is he just using them to, like, frame the scene?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there more to it?
Oh, there's more. He uses them very actively. And he even highlights them with a specific detail. Look for a small triangle of light.
A triangle of light. Whereabouts?
It's quite subtle, but it's there, sort of marking or emphasizing those vertical tree trunks. It acts almost like a little spotlight.
Okay. And what does that do, that little bit of light?
Well, the effect is pretty clever. It
Wow.
seems to make the light radiate outwards from that point. So it really broadens up the foreground, draws your eye to the people closest to you.
Right, so it pulls you forward.
It pulls you forward, yeah.
Yeah.
But it also sort of affects how you perceive the space behind those figures.
Which leads us nicely to the whole idea of depth in this painting. How does he handle what you can actually see further back?
Yeah, this is fascinating. Because there's a real lack of clear depth perception, isn't there?
Mm.
There's a crowd, there should be space back there, but you, the viewer, well, you can't really make out the details, the deep parts, as you might say.
It's kind of fuzzy, indistinct.
Exactly. It's intentionally indistinct. And a big reason for that is what you could call an obscuring effect.
Obscuring effect? How so?
The figures right up front, they basically block the view. They form this kind of flat wall, almost, a planar obstruction.
So they're like a screen you can't see past easily?
Pretty much. It's like he's deliberately stopping your eye from just wandering deep into the picture.
Yeah.
Which was, quite different for the time.
Yeah, that feels quite modern, almost a bit confrontational, compared to like a sweeping landscape where you feel invited in.
It does have that quality.
Ah.
And if you connect that back to the other elements.
I think the vertical lines.
Right. The combination of that strong verticality and a fairly shortened depth of field.
Meaning things get blurry fast as you go back.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
combination actually makes that obscuring effect even stronger. It really emphasizes the foreground and makes it hard for your eye to sort of penetrate the background.
Wow. So it's quite a deliberate strategy then, who's actively making it difficult to see everything.
It certainly seems that way. He's controlling your view, emphasizing the surface, the immediate scene, rather than some deep illusionistic space.
Yeah. So what does this all mean then? What's the impact on you, the viewer, looking at this busy garden scene? Is he trying to say something by, limiting our view like that?
So wrapping this part up, what we've seen is how Manet, even this early on, while still looking quite classical, is really cleverly manipulating space, using these axes, that interesting play of light, putting figures in just the right place to create a very specific feeling about depth, or maybe a lack of depth. very controlled, even limited sense of depth.
Yeah.
He's making you focus on what's right there on the surface, maybe reflecting the fleeting glances of modern life.
Instead of letting you just drift off into some idealized background.
Exactly. And, that leads to a final thought maybe for you to consider. If Manet, even here in 1862, is deliberately kind of pushing back against deep space, limiting your access to the background, what does that suggest about how he saw painting, about capturing reality, and how might these early subtle choices, well, how might they point towards the really revolutionary, sometimes shocking work he was going to produce just a few years later? Makes you think, doesn't it?